I'm Bertha, 32 years old, a senior marketing specialist at Horizon Technologies. After 4 years of dedication, I stood proudly as William announced me as Employee of the Year. My smile froze when he suddenly grabbed my crystal trophy and smashed it against the floor. "This was meant for someone who actually deserves it," he sneered, as deafening silence filled the ballroom. Before I share my workplace betrayal story, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like button if you've ever experienced workplace injustice. Your support means everything during these vulnerable shares. My journey at Horizon Technologies began 4 years ago when I joined as a junior marketing coordinator. Fresh out of my master's program, I was eager to prove myself in the competitive tech marketing industry. The company was experiencing rapid growth, expanding from a modest startup to a recognized player in software solutions. My initial responsibilities included assisting with social media campaigns and helping organize promotional events. Within the first year, my dedication started paying off. I stayed late, perfecting presentations, volunteered for challenging projects, and constantly sought ways to improve our marketing strategies. My supervisor at the time, Amanda, recognized my potential and began assigning me more significant responsibilities. By my second year, I earned a promotion to marketing specialist, managing my own campaigns and contributing ideas that resonated with our target audience. The company culture initially felt supportive and innovative. We had weekly brainstorming sessions, where everyone's input was valued regardless of position. Monthly team-building activities fostered camaraderie, and successes were celebrated collectively. The executive team seemed genuinely invested in employee growth and satisfaction. My most significant achievement came when I spearheaded our Digital Transformation Partners campaign. I identified a gap in our messaging that failed to connect with mid-sized businesses struggling with technological adoption. By creating relatable content centered around real challenges these businesses faced, we saw engagement increase by 83%. The campaign generated 37 new client acquisitions worth over $4 million in annual contracts. This success put me on the radar of upper management, including our department head, William. William Butler had been with Horizon for 8 years, working his way up from marketing manager to vice president of marketing and communications. His reputation preceded him: brilliant strategist, demanding perfectionist, and notoriously difficult to impress. At 54, he carried himself with unwavering confidence, always impeccably dressed in tailored suits that emphasized his tall, commanding presence. Our initial interactions were formal but positive. During my presentation of the digital transformation results, William actually smiled, something colleagues claimed was rarer than a solar eclipse. "This shows promise," he said, which Amanda later translated as his version of enthusiastic praise. Over the next few months, William began inviting me to higher-level meetings, occasionally asking for my input on strategic decisions and mentioning my work to the CEO. William's recognition felt validating. He wasn't known for empty compliments, so each nod of approval or good work email fueled my motivation. During my third-year performance review, he personally added a note commending my innovative approach and commitment to excellence. When he suggested I apply for the senior specialist position that opened up, it seemed like the natural progression of a flourishing professional relationship. Last year presented our team with unprecedented challenges as market conditions tightened and competitors intensified their efforts. William announced we needed a revolutionary campaign to maintain our market position. I saw this as my opportunity to solidify my value to the company and pitched a comprehensive strategy I called Resilient Enterprise. The Resilient Enterprise campaign targeted companies concerned about business continuity and operational stability during uncertain times. I developed a multi-channel approach, featuring webinars with industry experts, case studies showcasing our solutions' reliability, and an interactive assessment tool helping prospects identify vulnerabilities in their current systems. Implementing the campaign wasn't smooth sailing. Our budget faced cuts. 2 team members left mid-project, and initial engagement metrics fell below expectations. I worked 60-hour weeks refining messaging, negotiating with vendors to reduce costs, and personally reaching out to potential clients. After adjusting our targeting parameters and reinforcing the emotional components in our messaging, the campaign turned around dramatically. By quarter's end, Resilient Enterprise delivered spectacular results. 62% increase in qualified leads, 47 new enterprise contracts, and recognition from industry publications as an innovative marketing approach. The CEO mentioned the campaign during the shareholder meeting, and our competitors began creating similar materials, the sincerest form of flattery in our industry. The company's annual employee awards program was approaching, with Employee of the Year being the most prestigious recognition. The selection process involved peer nominations, performance metrics, review, and final selection by the executive committee. The award carried significance beyond the trophy. It included a $10,000 bonus, professional development opportunities, and considerable prestige within the company. Several colleagues encouraged me to submit my work for consideration, and I knew my main competition would be Jessica Palmer from the product marketing team. Jessica had delivered strong results, leading our software suite rebranding, and she had been with the company 2 years longer than me. She had close relationships with several executives and was known for her polished presentations and strategic thinking. As nominations closed and the committee began deliberations, I felt a mix of hope and anxiety. I believed in the value I had created, yet imposter syndrome whispered doubts about whether my contributions truly warranted such recognition. My friend Rachel from the sales team assured me I was a strong contender, having heard positive discussions among the selection committee members. With the annual party 2 weeks away, I allowed myself to imagine what winning might feel like. Validation of countless late nights, strategizing sessions, and emotional investment in projects many thought too ambitious. Though I tried to temper my expectations, a persistent voice inside said, "This could be my moment of professional affirmation." The shift in William's behavior was subtle at first. So subtle I dismissed the initial signs. About 6 weeks before the awards ceremony, I noticed he stopped responding to my emails with his usual promptness. Messages that previously received responses within hours now sat unanswered for days, sometimes requiring follow-up. During our weekly department meetings, William began interrupting my presentations with pointed questions that bordered on criticism rather than constructive feedback. "Is this the best approach you could come up with?" he asked. During my update on the Resilient Enterprise campaign extension, his tone carrying an edge I hadn't heard before. "These numbers seem optimistic at best." The comment stung particularly since the projections were based on actual performance data from the initial campaign phase. The most telling change came when William stopped inviting me to strategic planning meetings I had previously attended. When I inquired about the next session, he dismissed my concern with a casual, "We're keeping that meeting smaller for efficiency. I'll fill you in if anything relevant to your work comes up." Yet I later discovered that Jessica had been included, despite her projects having less direct relevance to the topics discussed. Speaking of Jessica, her interactions with William had taken on a notably different quality. They frequently disappeared into his office for closed-door meetings, emerging with knowing smiles and inside jokes. During lunch breaks, they could be seen at the corner table in the company cafeteria, heads bent close in seemingly intense conversation. While they had always maintained a cordial professional relationship, this newfound closeness raised eyebrows throughout the department. Jessica's behavior toward me changed as well. Previously collaborative and friendly, she began withholding information relevant to projects where our responsibilities overlapped. Twice, I discovered she had presented concepts to William that incorporated ideas from our team discussions without acknowledging their source. When confronted privately, she brushed it off as parallel thinking and suggested I needed to be less sensitive about collaborative work. More concerning was Jessica's sudden assignment to high-visibility projects. She was asked to represent our department at the industry conference in Chicago, a role I had filled successfully the previous year. William also appointed her to lead the quarterly strategy presentation to the board, though my campaign had generated more significant results during the period being reviewed. My friend Karen from the design team confirmed my observations weren't paranoia. "Something's definitely changed," she confided during our coffee break. "William practically ignored your contribution to the bank client proposal, then praised Jessica for elements your team developed. It was awkward enough that even Taylor from finance noticed and mentioned it to me afterward. Rather than jumping to accusations, I tried to approach the situation constructively. I requested a one-on-one meeting with William to discuss my current projects and future development. After 2 cancellations, we finally met briefly between his other appointments. When I asked for feedback on my performance, his response was vague and non-committal. "You're doing fine, Bertha," he said, glancing frequently at his watch. "Just keep focusing on execution. Not everyone needs to be involved in strategy." When I specifically mentioned my interest in the upcoming leadership development program, he frowned. "I think Jessica would be a better fit for that initiative given her trajectory with the company. You might want to focus on strengthening your core skills first." The conversation left me bewildered and concerned. I reviewed my recent projects, wondering if I had missed something, or if my performance had somehow declined without my awareness. The metrics didn't support this theory. My campaigns continued to outperform targets, and client feedback remained overwhelmingly positive. Seeking perspective, I shared my concerns with Rachel over dinner. Document everything she advised firmly. Save emails, keep notes of meetings, and maintain records of your contributions. Something doesn't feel right about this situation. Following Rachel's advice, I began paying closer attention to communication patterns and keeping detailed records. I noticed William had begun copying Jessica on emails regarding my projects, while excluding me from threads concerning initiatives I had helped develop. More disturbing was discovering that slides from my confidential proposal for our next major campaign had appeared slightly modified in a presentation Jessica delivered to the executive team with William's apparent blessing. Despite these concerning developments, I continued putting my best effort into preparations for the end-of-year projects and the upcoming company party. The annual event was Horizon's most lavish gathering held at the Grand Plaza Hotel downtown. All employees received invitations, and the awards ceremony was the evening's centerpiece, with Employee of the Year being the final and most prestigious honor announced. I splurged on a new burgundy dress for the occasion, hoping it projected the confidence I was struggling to maintain. Rachel accompanied me shopping and provided reassurance as I vacillated between excitement and anxiety. "Whatever happens, you know your worth," she reminded me. "The numbers speak for themselves." At home, the night before the ceremony, I practiced my potential acceptance speech, trying to strike the right balance between gracious and confident. My sister Amy called to wish me luck, sensing my nervous energy through the phone. "You've earned this recognition, Bertha," she said firmly. "Don't let office politics make you doubt yourself." As I laid out my outfit and accessories for the following evening, I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Part of me wanted to believe in the meritocracy our company claimed to uphold, while another part recognized the shifting dynamics that seemed to be working against me. With equal measures of hope and trepidation, I set my alarm and tried to get some sleep before what I expected would be either a career highlight or a profound disappointment. The Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom had been transformed for Horizon Technology's annual celebration. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables adorned with elaborate floral centerpieces in the company's blue and silver colors. A stage dominated the front of the room, featuring an elegant podium and display table for the awards. A massive screen displayed a slideshow of company achievements and team photos from throughout the year. I arrived 30 minutes early, stomach fluttering with nerves. My burgundy dress felt appropriate, professional yet festive, and I had taken extra care with my hair and makeup. The venue staff were making final adjustments to the audio system and placing programs at each table setting. I found my assigned seat at table 7, close enough to the stage to make for a quick walk-up if my name was called, but not so close as to make my disappointment obvious if it wasn't. Colleagues began arriving in groups, the men in suits and the women in cocktail attire. Everyone seemed to radiate anticipation. This event was not only a celebration, but also set the tone for the coming year. I exchanged pleasantries with several team members, accepting compliments on my dress, while deflecting questions about the Employee of the Year award with practiced humility. Rachel arrived looking stunning in a navy blue gown. She squeezed my hand supportively before taking her seat at the neighboring table. Across the room, I spotted William in deep conversation with the CEO and several board members. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that emphasized his authoritative presence. Jessica stood nearby in an elegant black dress, occasionally joining their conversation with confident gestures. At 7 o'clock precisely, the lights dimmed and our Chief Operating Officer, Patricia Morgan, took the stage. "Welcome to our annual celebration of excellence," she began, her voice warm and inclusive. "Tonight, we recognize the incredible achievements that have made this our most successful year to date." The evening progressed through a carefully orchestrated program. We enjoyed a gourmet 3-course dinner, while department heads presented highlights from the year. The audiovisual team had created impressive montages showcasing major client wins and successful campaigns. I felt a swell of pride, seeing several slides featuring the Resilient Enterprise campaign, though I noticed my name wasn't mentioned in the accompanying narration. After dinner came the awards presentation. Patricia returned to the podium to announce the various honors: Innovation Award, Client Service Excellence Rookie of the Year, and several others. Recipients made brief, gracious speeches as they accepted elegant crystal trophies. The atmosphere was celebratory, with genuine applause following each announcement. As the program approached its conclusion, tension in the room noticeably increased. Everyone knew the Employee of the Year award was the final presentation. Patricia introduced William, explaining that as head of the most successful department, he would present the evening's most prestigious honor. William approached the podium with measured steps, adjusting his tie before addressing the crowd. "Excellence isn't accidental," he began, his deep voice carrying authority. "It results from vision, determination, and consistent performance under pressure. The Employee of the Year award recognizes not just results, but the character and commitment that drive sustainable success." He continued with a speech about Horizon's values and the importance of leadership at every level. My heart pounded so loudly I wondered if others could hear it. Jessica sat at her table with a composed smile, occasionally nodding at William's points. This year's recipient, William, demonstrated remarkable initiative and delivered exceptional results that significantly impacted our company's bottom line. He paused, dramatically scanning the room. "I'm pleased to announce our Employee of the Year is Bertha Collins." The room erupted in applause. For a moment, I sat frozen, processing the announcement. Rachel nudged me gently, and I rose on unsteady legs. The walk to the stage felt surreal. Faces turned toward me with smiles and congratulations. I climbed the steps carefully, my mind racing through the key points of the acceptance speech I had rehearsed. William stood center stage holding the crystal trophy, an elegant statuette mounted on a heavy base, with my name and achievement engraved on a silver plate. The stage lights gleamed off its polished surface. He shook my hand as I approached, his grip firm and his smile not quite reaching his eyes. I reached for the trophy, but William maintained his hold. Something shifted in his expression. A coldness I'd glimpsed in meetings, but never so openly displayed. Then, an emotion so shocking my brain could barely process it, he released the trophy, not into my waiting hands, but toward the floor. The sound of shattering crystal cut through the applause like a gunshot. Fragments scattered across the stage, some sliding all the way to the front row tables. Complete silence fell over the ballroom, hundreds of witnesses frozen in collective disbelief. William turned to face the audience, his voice carrying clearly through the stunned quiet. "This award was meant for someone who actually deserves it," he announced, glancing meaningfully toward Jessica's table. "Someone whose contributions weren't exaggerated or misleadingly presented." The accusation hung in the air like poison. I stood beside him, humiliation burning through me as cameras that had been raised to capture my moment of triumph now documented my public degradation. The silence stretched for several excruciating seconds before murmurs began rippling through the crowd. In that crystallizing moment, clarity cut through my shock. The pattern of recent months suddenly made perfect sense. The exclusion, the undermined projects, the stolen ideas. I had been set up for this public takedown. But why? And why go through with announcing me as the winner only to create this spectacle? With trembling hands but resolute purpose, I reached into my clutch bag and withdrew an envelope I had prepared days earlier based on disturbing discoveries. I had intended to discuss it privately with Human Resources the following week, uncertain if I should proceed. William's actions had just removed any doubt. I placed the sealed envelope on the podium directly in front of William, met his gaze without flinching, and turned away. Walking down the steps and through the center of the ballroom felt like the longest journey of my life. Hundreds of eyes followed my exit, but I kept my head high and my pace measured, refusing to grant him the satisfaction of seeing me run or cry. As the ballroom doors closed behind me, I heard the commotion finally erupt. Voices raised in confusion and outrage. But I didn't look back. Something had irrevocably broken. And it wasn't just the crystal trophy. The moment the hotel elevator doors closed, providing blessed privacy, my composure fractured. Tears spilled down my cheeks as I jabbed repeatedly at the parking level button. My hands shook uncontrollably, and my carefully applied makeup was certainly ruined. The humiliation replayed in vivid detail. The sound of shattering crystal, hundreds of shocked faces, William's cruel words cutting through the silence. When the elevator reached the parking garage, I stumbled toward my car, barely able to see through my tears. I fumbled with my keys, dropping them twice before managing to unlock the door. Once inside, I broke down completely, great heaving sobs racking my body. 4 years of dedication, countless late nights, sacrificed weekends, all culminating in this public degradation. The injustice of it burned like acid. My phone buzzed repeatedly with incoming messages, but I couldn't bear to look. What were people saying? Were they pitying me? Questioning my achievements? The thought of becoming the subject of office gossip only intensified my distress. 20 minutes later, a knock on my window startled me. Rachel stood outside, concern etched on her face. I unlocked the door and she slid into the passenger seat, immediately pulling me into a hug. "What happened up there was unforgivable," she said fiercely. "Everyone's in shock. Patricia pulled William into a side room immediately after you left. He looked like he'd been slapped when he opened your envelope." The envelope. In my emotional turmoil, I'd almost forgotten its contents. Over the past 2 weeks, I had compiled irrefutable evidence of William's misconduct. It began with discovering drafts of my Resilient Enterprise campaign on the shared drive with creation dates predating my proposal, but with Jessica listed as the author. Further investigation revealed metadata showing William had created the files and then modified the properties. More damning were emails I'd recovered from a temporarily accessible archive during an IT system migration, correspondence between William and Jessica plotting to use my work product while gradually undermining my position. "We need to extract her strategic framework before transitioning her out," William had written. "The board responds well to her campaign structure, but they'll accept it more readily coming from you." The envelope also contained data showing how results from my campaigns had been reallocated to boost Jessica's performance metrics. And finally, there was my resignation letter, which I had drafted but hadn't decided whether to submit. William's public action had made the decision for me. "What did he look like when he read it?" I asked Rachel, wiping tears away with the back of my hand. "First confused, then shocked, then absolutely pale," she replied. Jessica kept trying to see what was in it, but he stuffed it in his pocket. The CEO demanded to know what was going on, and they all disappeared into the management office. People are still in there now. My phone continued buzzing. I finally glanced down to see dozens of messages from colleagues expressing outrage and support. What William did was disgraceful. "You deserved that award. Karen. In my 15 years here, never seen anything so unprofessional. You. Okay. Thomas from finance. We're all shocked. This isn't over. Call me when you can." Alan, my former supervisor. Each message provided a small measure of validation but couldn't erase the public humiliation or the betrayal by a leader I had respected. The realization that William had been actively undermining me while stealing my work product for months made me question my entire experience at Horizon. Had I been naive to trust the system? Had I missed obvious signs? Rachel stayed with me until I felt capable of driving, then followed me home to ensure I arrived safely. My apartment, normally a sanctuary after long work days, felt hollow as we entered. Rachel made tea while I changed out of my party dress, now a painful reminder of shattered expectations. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," Rachel said as we sat on my living room couch. "But you should know the HR director, Daniel, was asking for your contact information. I think they realize how serious this is." I nodded numbly, too emotionally exhausted to form coherent thoughts about next steps. My sister Amy called, having received a concerning text from Rachel, and I managed to outline what had happened. Her outrage on my behalf was comforting, but when she suggested legal action, the thought of prolonging this nightmare made me feel physically ill. "Just focus on getting through tonight," Amy advised before hanging up. "This says everything about William, and nothing about you. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." After Rachel left, promising to check on me in the morning, I lay awake replaying every interaction with William and Jessica over recent months. Signs I had dismissed came into sharp focus. William taking credit for my strategic framework during the board presentation. Jessica receiving recognition for client acquisition directly resulting from my campaign. Collaborative projects where my contributions were mysteriously omitted from final reports. Around 3 in the morning, my phone chimed with an email notification from Patricia Morgan, our COO. "Bertha, I want to personally apologize for tonight's unconscionable incident. Please call my cell when you feel able to talk. This matter is being taken extremely seriously at the highest levels of the company." The validation offered some comfort, but couldn't repair the fundamental breach of trust. How could I ever walk back into that office? Face colleagues who had witnessed my humiliation, work with systems and processes now tainted by deception. Something fundamental had broken that night. Not just a crystal trophy, but my belief in professional meritocracy and organizational justice. As dawn broke, I finally drifted into restless sleep. One question echoing in my mind: where do I go from here? Morning arrived with harsh clarity. After a night of fragmented sleep, I woke to dozens more messages and several missed calls from Horizon's executive team. Making a decision that surprised even myself, I showered, applied makeup carefully, and put on my most professional outfit, a charcoal pantsuit that always made me feel confident and competent. "You're going in?" Rachel asked incredulously when I called to tell her my plan. I refused to slink away in shame when I've done nothing wrong. I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need to face this directly." The office was unusually quiet when I arrived at 9 o'clock. Conversations stopped as I passed, replaced by supportive smiles and nods from many colleagues. Karen from the design team immediately embraced me. "You're the bravest person I know," she whispered. "We're all behind you." I headed directly to Human Resources, where Daniel Richards, the director, was visibly relieved to see me. "Bertha, thank you for coming in. We've been trying to reach you since last night." "I needed time to process what happened," I said, maintaining professional composure despite the emotion threatening to surface. Daniel nodded, understanding. "What occurred last night was completely unacceptable and violates numerous company policies. The executive team has been in emergency meetings since early this morning. But before we continue those discussions, I need to hear your perspective and understand the contents of the envelope you provided to William." For the next 2 hours, I methodically walked Daniel through the evidence I had discovered. I presented emails showing how William had systematically undermined my position while appropriating my work. I showed campaign performance data that had been manipulated to diminish my contributions while enhancing Jessica's apparent results. Most damning were the document drafts with altered metadata proving William had taken my original concepts and reassigned authorship. "I was planning to bring this to you next week," I explained. "I wanted to ensure I wasn't misinterpreting the situation. Last night forced my hand." Daniel's expression grew increasingly grave as we reviewed the materials. "This goes beyond performance manipulation. This is intellectual property theft and fraud. I need to escalate this immediately to legal and the executive committee." While Daniel made arrangements for further meetings, I returned to my desk to collect personal items. Colleagues stopped by, quietly offering support. Thomas from finance mentioned that Jessica had been called into multiple meetings with senior leadership throughout the morning and emerged looking increasingly distressed. "The rumor is she's claiming she didn't know about William's actions, but emails are proving otherwise," he whispered. By noon, I was summoned to the executive conference room. Present were Patricia Morgan, COO, Daniel from HR, Elaine Webster, General Counsel, and Robert Barnett, CEO. The atmosphere was solemn as I entered. "Bertha, first let me personally apologize for what happened last night," Robert began. "It was unconscionable and does not reflect our company values or standards of professional conduct." Patricia added, "We've spent the morning reviewing the evidence you provided and conducting initial interviews. The findings are deeply troubling." Elaine, the company attorney, explained that both William and Jessica had been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. "The evidence suggests serious violations of company policy, ethical standards, and possibly contractual obligations. We're taking this extremely seriously." They asked me to recount my experience in detail, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly listening attentively. When I finished, Robert leaned forward. "We want to make this right, Bertha. We'd like to offer you a formal apology, the Employee of the Year recognition you earned, the accompanying bonus and additional compensation for the distress caused. More importantly, we'd like to discuss your future at Horizon, including a potential promotion to Director of Campaign Strategy, reporting directly to Patricia." The offer was generous, more than I had expected. Yet, something fundamental had shifted inside me during the past 24 hours. The betrayal had forced me to reevaluate what I truly wanted professionally and what kind of environment would allow me to thrive. "I appreciate the offer," I responded carefully. However, I received a call this morning from Phoenix Marketing. They've been following my work on the Resilient Enterprise campaign and expressed interest in having me join their team in a senior position. This wasn't entirely unexpected. Phoenix had approached me several months earlier, but I had declined out of loyalty to Horizon. After last night's events, I returned their call and had a brief but promising conversation. Patricia looked genuinely disappointed. "We would hate to lose you, especially under these circumstances. Is there anything we can do to persuade you to reconsider?" I thought carefully before answering. "This isn't about compensation or title. What happened last night was a symptom of cultural issues that allowed William's behavior to continue unchecked for months. I need to work somewhere I can trust the leadership and systems to support integrity." The meeting concluded with promises to stay in communication as I considered my options. Robert personally walked me back to my department, a gesture clearly meant to signal to the entire office that I had the company's support. That afternoon, I met directly with William in the presence of HR and legal representatives. He appeared significantly diminished, his usual commanding presence replaced by defensive body language and averted eyes. "The evidence speaks for itself," I stated calmly when he attempted to minimize his actions as standard mentorship and normal resource allocation. "You systematically took credit for my work while actively undermining my position. The question is why?" William's facade finally cracked. "You weren't supposed to succeed so quickly," he admitted bitterly. "Your campaigns outperformed everyone's in the department, including projects I personally designed. The board started asking why you weren't in leadership yet. It threatened my position." His admission, captured in the meeting minutes, provided a strange sense of closure. The betrayal wasn't about my performance being inadequate. It was about it being too good. By week's end, I had accepted Phoenix Marketing's offer as Senior Director of Campaign Strategy, a significant advancement from my position at Horizon. The role included leading a team of 8 marketing professionals, greater creative autonomy, and a substantial increase in compensation. Leaving Horizon was bittersweet. Many colleagues had become friends, and despite recent events, my 4 years there had shaped my professional identity. On my final day, the team organized a lunch celebration that felt like genuine recognition of my contributions. Karen gave a speech that moved me to tears, highlighting campaigns and moments that demonstrated my impact on the company and their personal careers. As I packed my office, Rachel helped wrap fragile items and carry boxes to my car. "I'm going to miss you terribly," she said. "But I'm so proud of how you handled everything. You're leaving with your integrity intact and your head held high. That's worth more than any trophy." With a mixture of sadness and anticipation, I walked out of Horizon Technologies for the final time. Not as a victim of workplace injustice, but as a professional who had stood up for herself and chosen a better path forward. The betrayal had been painful, but my response to it had revealed a strength I hadn't known I possessed. My first day at Phoenix Marketing arrived with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The company occupied 3 floors of a modern building downtown with open workspaces and abundant natural light, physically and metaphorically distant from the traditional corporate environment at Horizon. Simon Reynolds, the CEO, personally welcomed me and introduced me to the executive team. "We've been following your Resilient Enterprise campaign with great interest," he explained as he showed me around. "Your approach to emotional connectivity while maintaining practical business applications is exactly the direction we want to expand into." My new team gathered for an introductory meeting that afternoon. 8 marketing professionals with diverse backgrounds and specialties looked to me with curious anticipation. I had prepared, thoroughly researching each team member's background and contributions to understand their strengths. "I believe in collaborative leadership," I began. "My role is to provide direction and support, while recognizing that your expertise in your respective areas is what will drive our collective success. I'm here to learn from you as much as to guide our strategy." The transition wasn't without challenges. Phoenix's client base differed from Horizon's, requiring me to quickly absorb new industry knowledge. Their processes and systems took time to master, and establishing credibility with the team meant proving my capabilities anew. During those initial weeks, I often worked late, studying client histories and industry trends, determined to demonstrate that Phoenix had made the right choice. Gradually, the team dynamic solidified. I instituted weekly brainstorming sessions where everyone contributed regardless of seniority, creating an environment where innovative ideas could flourish. We celebrated small victories and learned collectively from setbacks. By the end of my second month, our department had developed a cohesive rhythm and genuine camaraderie. Meanwhile, the aftermath of my departure continued to unfold at Horizon. Rachel kept me informed of developments, reporting that the internal investigation had expanded beyond William and Jessica to examine broader issues of credit allocation and performance evaluation throughout the company. "William was terminated last week," she texted one evening. "Official reason is violation of ethical standards and company policies, but everyone knows the real story. Jessica is still on administrative leave, but rumor has it she's negotiated a resignation rather than termination." The news stirred complicated emotions. While there was a certain vindication in knowing William faced consequences for his actions, I took no pleasure in anyone's professional downfall. The situation had revealed character flaws and systemic problems, but these were people with families and responsibilities. I chose to focus on my own path forward, rather than dwelling on their fates. More concerning were reports of increased departures from Horizon following the incident. Several talented team members resigned in the subsequent months, citing concerns about the company culture and leadership integrity. Karen, who had been my strongest supporter, accepted a position with a competitor, telling me over coffee that, after seeing how things really worked with William, I couldn't unsee the problems in other departments. The story of what happened at the awards ceremony had spread throughout the industry despite Horizon's attempts to manage the narrative. At a regional marketing conference, several people I barely knew approached to express support or curiosity. I developed a brief professional response that acknowledged the incident without details. It was an unfortunate situation that revealed the importance of organizational integrity. I've moved on to an environment better aligned with my professional values. On a personal level, the experience had left emotional scars that required attention. At my sister Amy's suggestion, I began working with a therapist specializing in workplace trauma. Dr. Lillian Hayes helped me process the betrayal and public humiliation, providing strategies to manage lingering anxiety and trust issues that affected my new position. Your hypervigilance is a natural response to what you experienced, Dr. Hayes explained during one session. When trust is violated so dramatically, your brain creates protective mechanisms. Our goal is to help you distinguish between healthy caution and fear-based responses that might limit your growth. The therapy proved invaluable as I navigated building relationships at Phoenix. I found myself scrutinizing feedback for hidden criticism and sometimes hesitating to share innovative ideas, fearing they might be appropriated. With Dr. Hayes' guidance, I developed techniques to recognize these reactions and respond more constructively. Gradually, I rediscovered my passion for marketing strategy. Phoenix provided fertile ground for creativity, encouraging bold approaches and rewarding innovation. 3 months into my role, I proposed a comprehensive campaign for our largest client that combined data-driven targeting with compelling emotional narratives. When the executive team unanimously approved the proposal, I experienced a renewed sense of professional confidence. Beyond work, I sought to rebuild personal resilience through new connections and activities. I joined a professional women's network that provided mentorship and support for those navigating career challenges. Sharing my experience in that safe space helped transform it from a source of shame to a valuable lesson I could use to help others. Rachel and I maintained our friendship meeting regularly for dinner or weekend hikes. Karen joined us occasionally after leaving Horizon, the three of us, forming a support system based on shared experience and genuine care. During one such evening, Karen mentioned that Horizon had implemented significant changes to their performance evaluation systems and creative attribution policies. Your situation forced them to confront problems they'd been ignoring, she explained. Patricia told me before I left that they hired a consultant to completely revamp how project contributions are tracked and credited. They're calling it the Attribution Integrity Initiative, but everyone knows it's because of what happened with you. Knowing that my experience might prevent similar situations for others provided unexpected comfort. The personal cost had been high, but perhaps some broader good would come from it. This perspective helped me reframe the narrative, not as a victim of workplace injustice, but as a catalyst for necessary change. 6 months into my role at Phoenix, I received an industry recognition that carried profound meaning: the Regional Marketing Association's Campaign Visionary Award for the resilient enterprise work I had developed at Horizon. The nomination had come from peers outside both companies based on the campaign's innovative approach and measurable impact. At the awards ceremony, I delivered an acceptance speech focusing on authentic leadership and creative integrity. Without mentioning specific incidents, I emphasized the importance of organizational cultures that recognize individual contributions while fostering collaborative success. The standing ovation that followed suggested the message resonated widely within the industry. As I approached the 1-year mark at Phoenix, I realized how profoundly the experience had transformed my professional identity and personal resilience. The betrayal that once seemed potentially career-ending had instead propelled me toward greater autonomy, confidence, and clarity about my values. Sometimes the worst moments truly do lead to unexpected growth, not because of the pain they cause, but because of how we choose to respond to that pain. 1 year after that fateful night at the Grand Plaza Hotel, I stood in a different ballroom, attending the Regional Marketing Summit. Phoenix Marketing had been nominated for Agency of the Year, largely due to our transformative campaign for health tech solutions that had revolutionized their market position. As senior director, I had led the strategy development and oversaw its flawless execution. The irony wasn't lost on me when I spotted William across the crowded reception area. He had apparently landed a position with a smaller agency after several months of unemployment. Our eyes met briefly before he quickly looked away, his confident posture of the past replaced with uncertain body language. I felt neither triumph nor anger, just a momentary acknowledgement of our shared history before returning to conversation with my team. Jessica approached me during the cocktail hour, visibly nervous. "Do you have a moment?" she asked hesitantly. After leaving Horizon, she had spent 6 months as a freelancer before securing a position with a digital marketing firm. "I've wanted to apologize for a long time," she said, voice barely audible above the room's chatter. "What happened was inexcusable. I got caught up in William's promises and my own ambition. I'm truly sorry." Her apology seemed genuine but also irrelevant to my current reality. "I appreciate you saying that," I responded sincerely. "I hope you've found a better environment now." As she nodded and moved away, I realized how completely I had moved beyond the need for validation or apologies from either of them. Phoenix won Agency of the Year that evening. When Simon called me to join him on stage during the acceptance speech to recognize my contributions, I experienced a moment of powerful symmetry. 1 year earlier, public recognition had turned to humiliation. Now, surrounded by a team that genuinely valued my leadership, I received acknowledgement that felt authentic and earned. The journey from that shattered trophy to this moment hadn't been straightforward or easy. The initial weeks after leaving Horizon had been emotionally turbulent. Despite external validation from my new position, internal doubts persisted. I questioned my judgment, second-guessed decisions, and approached new professional relationships with cautious skepticism. Dr. Hayes' guidance proved invaluable during this period. Trauma doesn't just disappear because your circumstances improve, she explained during one particularly difficult session. Recovery isn't linear. It's a process of gradually rebuilding trust both in others and in your own perceptions. Through therapy, I learned to recognize how the experience had altered my thought patterns. When Simon praised my work but suggested modifications to a campaign strategy, my initial reaction was defensive suspicion. With practice, I developed the ability to distinguish between constructive feedback and the undermining tactics William had employed. This discernment proved crucial to my success at Phoenix. Rebuilding professional confidence occurred alongside personal growth. I established clearer boundaries between work and personal life, prioritizing relationships and activities that nourished my well-being. Weekly dinners with my sister Amy, weekend, hiking with friends, and volunteering at a career mentorship program for college students brought balance and perspective. The mentorship program proved unexpectedly healing. Guiding young women navigating their early career decisions allowed me to transform my painful experience into valuable wisdom. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong in a workplace. I advised one talented graphic design student. Document your contributions, build a support network, and remember that no job is worth sacrificing your integrity or well-being. Rachel had remained my steadfast friend throughout this journey. Over dinner celebrating my 1-year anniversary at Phoenix, she shared news from Horizon. "They've completely restructured the marketing department," she reported. Patricia implemented a collaborative attribution system where project contributions are transparently documented and recognized. She specifically mentioned to me that it was inspired by what happened with you. Learning that my experience had catalyzed positive change provided a strange sense of closure. The personal cost had been significant, but knowing other professionals might be protected from similar situations offered meaning to the ordeal. As my career at Phoenix flourished, new opportunities emerged. Simon approached me about developing a specialized division focused on integrated campaigns for healthcare and technology clients, sectors where our innovative approaches had proven particularly effective. The role would involve building a team from the ground up with significant autonomy over strategy and culture. You've demonstrated exceptional leadership under challenging circumstances, Simon noted during our discussion. The resilience and integrity you bring to your work aligns perfectly with where we want to take the company. The opportunity represented everything I had hoped for professionally: creative freedom, recognition of my strategic vision, and the chance to shape an organizational culture based on principles I deeply valued. As I prepared my vision for the new division, I reflected on the lessons that would guide my leadership approach. First and foremost was the understanding that true leadership isn't measured by titles or control, but by how we elevate others while maintaining integrity. William's fundamental mistake wasn't just stealing credit, it was believing that my success somehow diminished his own. I was determined to create a team environment where individual recognition strengthened collective achievement. Second was the recognition that workplace culture isn't shaped by mission statements or policies alone, but through consistent daily actions that either build or erode trust. At Phoenix, I instituted practices ensuring transparent attribution of ideas and contributions, regular feedback sessions where team members could voice concerns without fear, and celebration of successes that acknowledged everyone's role. Perhaps the most profound lesson came from recognizing my own resilience. The night my trophy shattered could have defined my career trajectory in terms of victimhood and disillusionment. Instead, it became a painful but powerful catalyst for growth. By refusing to internalize William's narrative and choosing instead to rebuild on my own terms, I discovered strength I hadn't known I possessed. As I look toward the future, I carry these lessons not as burdens but as hard-won wisdom. The betrayal taught me to value myself beyond external validation and to recognize toxic dynamics before they escalate. It sharpened my commitment to creating professional environments where integrity and contribution are genuinely honored. For anyone who has faced workplace betrayal or injustice, I offer this truth: your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you respond to that treatment. There is power in standing firmly in your truth, even when doing so is frightening and painful. The path forward may not be what you originally envisioned, but it can lead to greater authenticity and fulfillment than you imagined possible. Have you ever experienced workplace betrayal, or had your contributions diminished by someone else? How did you handle it, and what did you learn? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to support these conversations about professional integrity and resilience. Share with someone who might need this message today. Remember that sometimes our greatest setbacks can become the foundation for our most meaningful growth. Thank you for listening to my story.